Hey, welcome to HR Famous, brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies. Named by CHRO today as the top midsize RPO provider, Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com. HR Famous is also brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today.
What's up, boys and girls? It's HR Famous, and it's JLee, your host this week, along with my friends Chris Dunn and Tim Sackett. We are coming to you live from our respective headquarters, living the pandemic life. Gentlemen, how's it going? I'll start with you, Mr. Dunn.
It's going great. A lot of off-mic talk, before we hopped on the show about, do I feel weak? Do I feel vulnerable? And I'd like to report to the world that I do not. It's all good. Thanks for asking, JLee.
Oh, man. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable, by the way.
There's nothing wrong with that.
By the way, it's a power move. Don't you think it's a power move when someone goes, when you so Jessica was very gracious and said, Katie, how are you doing? And then Katie comes back with, thanks for asking. I always think that's like a power moves, way to end that. And it happens to me all the time where somebody will, because we're on, these stupid video calls, all day, every day now. And I always try to get that in there before somebody else does. That's the power move. Hey, thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm acknowledging that you didn't have to do that. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that JLee cared.
Oh my goodness. By the way, since we are working from home, I hear a child calling my name and I forgot to lock the door. And so there's one walking
I thought it was Katie's crazy cat that he likes to torture when I'm on video calls with him.
Oh my gosh. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing great. Yeah. Michigan State Big Ten football is back this weekend. So I'm excited. I got my niece coming for the weekend. It's going to be a fun time.
You know what? I know that you are doing really well because you sent us this article and I thought we should talk about it. It was about genetic superiority, and where you started was the fact that gingers, I don't know if it's offensive to call redheaded people gingers, but
here we go.
Well, it depends on how you use that term.
It's a term of endearment to me. I love a ginger, but about redheads being genetically superior. And this was news to me. I had no clue, but maybe you've known this your whole life, Tim.
Well, it's a pretty rare gene to have red hair, and it's actually shrinking. They have projections of when from the gene pool that there'll no longer be any redheads left in the world. So it's we're unique. So there's certain things that we do. And so the one study I sent you guys was that redhead. Now they did it redheaded women, but I'll tell you that the gene that they measured, redheaded men have as well. They feel 25% less pain, but then they also feel temperature much more acute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if it's colder, they feel colder. If it's warmer, they feel warmer. I will tell you, just having fair skin and red hair, I definitely feel the warm thing all the time. And then my wife, being a very vivacious, attractive 50-year-old lady, tends to want to open the windows in the winter and make my entire room freezing so she can beat the heat, which so my dog and I have to cuddle under the covers to survive. So.
My goodness. Well, so redheaded people being maybe on the verge of extinction, part of that is redheads need to breed with other redheads to have redheaded offspring. Is that part of it?
Well, it should be. My wife hasn't been up for that yet, but I haven't brought any redheads into the bedroom. But I'm sure there's probably some Scandinavian country where redheads are getting together to try to keep that lineage going. KD was trying to go back and make fun of me because I brought that data into the discussion that we have.
So if you send someone an article that says you're superior, but then the characteristic in question is being modeled out of existence through natural selection, I'm getting a disconnect there in the science.
Katie, don't you try to understand the science. Just listen to my voice and I'll walk you through it.
But of course, BuzzFeed or Vox.com is where I get all my science articles. So it's good. By the way, I have a redhead in the house. My older son is a redhead. You would have had me, and I do think, by the way, he feels less pain and he does run hotter. You would have had me if you had some type of thing about anger. Because I think redheads are quicker.
Classic, right?
Yeah.
You do see that in your son?
I see both of what Tim said, by the way, because we had this conversation before we press record. And then I also saw, I also like quick to anger thing. That stereotype I think is true, at least for my son. Now the whole you feel temperature more. That doesn't explain like when Tim visited me, like why he's under a blankie.
Yeah, because it was cold.
No, that was the lure of him wanting you to come under the blanket and settle up to you so much. But I'll tell you guys both, on this topic of genetic superiority, this is not well known, but I'm telling you, there are also other forms of genetic superiority that Korean people have. And I just think it's people are surprised by this, but there's two things. Like there's a genetic mutation where one, our earwax is different. And I didn't know this until like as an adult where I dated a non-Korean person. I was like, wait a minute, your earwax is different. Like Korean people have dry earwax as opposed to like, I didn't understand why people need tips. Yeah. Like,
like the yellow stuff.
Yes. Yes. So it's dry earwax. And what's also related to that is a lack of body odor when we perspire. Like Korean people they don't stink. The funk.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get like any more superior than that. Those are amazing traits.
Well, that's super interesting, and I'm happy to report.
You have a son who has those traits too?
No, I'm happy to report, like, as the third person to go on the genetic superior trait.
You have none.
Hold on, wait. The algorithm is telling me not to discuss that in 2020. Got it. I'm out.
Oh my goodness. Well, I just, fascinating. I do love a ginger. Chris, you'll like this. So one of the reasons why I love Redheads is it goes back to my youth and the first time I ever read The Fountainhead, which I know how people view that, but there's that's part of the storyline is.
How old were you? I'm guessing you're like 7 when you broke that out.
The Fountainhead?
No, this will tell you my aspirations. I think I was 15 because I saw like a flyer about win an essay writing contest and $10,000 after you read The Fountainhead. And that's what made me read it.
Nice.
I should pick the book back up.
Katie, I will like the running hot, like redheads have short temper kind of thing. I grew up with that. And I think part of that was I think it's a myth. It's never been proven. Now you can sit there and say, hey, I have a son. And I know Tim Sackett, you guys both kind of run hot. But part of it for me growing up was I think people were constantly trying to push that button versus like some other like blonde headed kid or some other like, brunette or whatever. They were no one was telling them constantly. Like every time you reacted to something, it was like, oh, you're a redhead, you run hot. Oh, I gotta be careful. And you're just like, no, you just get frustrated with it. But, or maybe it's true. I don't know.
Well, so here's what I want to talk about. First topic of the day, separate from genetic superiority, which we shouldn't be talking about in 2020, apparently. I loved this article. I thought it was interesting. So Business Insider had an article recently, and it was talking about Netflix and, how they're faring in this current environment with all this competition. But one of the things that they were talking about was this notion of Netflix having 2 CEOs, so a co-CEO, Reed Hastings, and their other CEO, who people don't know the name as well, but Ted Sarandos. And I even thought just like the headline was interesting when you dig into the conversation about, dual leadership that model being compared to a family with two parents, and, how incredibly powerful that might be when you have two people at the helm. And so one of the things Hastings was saying was, nearly every family has two CEOs. And if you've got two people who work really well together, then it can be incredibly powerful. So keyword, they got to work well together, and it can potentially be really powerful. But I was thinking about it, and I don't know, like, one of the things I'm really curious about is, like, is it really possible to have two people like in charge leading? Like, isn't that too many cooks in the kitchen? And Mr. Dunn, I know you spent a lot of time teaching about leadership, and I don't know, like, can you have two people in charge leading? Does that make sense?
I don't think you can have two people in charge leading, but what I do think is true about the leadership equation, you've got Netflix with co-CEOs. By the way, I think that's just a proxy to keep Reed Hastings around for a few more years, kind of the bump to the stock price, founders there. Now we got the co-CEOs, but you can just kind of gradually meter out of the business. I think somebody's got to be in charge, but I also think this. I think that, in the matrixed world that we live in, I think all of us from an executive perspective have to, if we're in corporate America, we have to serve many different bosses. So I'll give you one example, then I'll throw it back to you. I'm doing a VP of HR search, and this whole HR thing is, so we've got a leadership team, CEO, COO, and CFO. And one of the questions that the VP of HR candidates have, about a third of them have this question, and I'm not sure that they really care, or if they've just been trained to ask the question, will I report to the CEO? And, I'm on I'm kind of at the 30-day mark of this search. Things are going well. We're going to close it up. I don't really know the answer, but so what I've started telling people is, hey, really, at the end of the day, we can say if it's important to you, you report to the CEO, but you're going to have to satisfy all of these people at the C level and all of the people on the leadership team, right? So I think it is important for somebody to be in charge, but I think it's probably immature for anybody to think that they need one person designated as the leader to influence and get results.
Yeah. I mean, what you bring up is that, like, even if you are the CEO of a company, and let's talk about like public companies as an example, like, you still have like a board of directors, you have shareholders, like, you got all these stakeholders that you have to ultimately please. And so, one person like being accountable to just them, that's not reality anywhere. But I don't know, Tim, you got your own company. Like, could you even imagine having to share that seat with someone, and what that would be like day to day?
No.
Not happening.
No, but again, like, I surround myself with people that I think we have that, like I think that, the example I gave you guys kind of behind the scenes was that, it's the spousal kind of relationship. I don't want to say husband and wife, because we can have all kinds of spousal relationships, right? But it's like that co-CEO within a family. When I was at Applebee's was the great example. It was a people-driven business. We had a CHRO that was beloved, was forward-facing, was charismatic. We had a CEO that was phenomenal, but wasn't that kind of outward leader, right? And so they worked perfectly together, in terms of having that constantly. If I was in a meeting with both of them and their entire other, the rest of the C-suite or whatever, like, it seemed like they were in concert constantly, and they would always joke about, like, when you go to the Thanksgiving table, turkey gets put in the middle, dad's carving the turkey, but we all kind of know, who told dad to carve the turkey, who made the turkey, and no one questions that, right? We just go, okay, great family, we're here for a great dinner. And then we go, and so they were like, oh, so you think you're the husband, or you think you're the wife? And they were like, we're not going to tell you, who we think who is, right? It is just, it works really well, in those kinds of settings. Now I'll tell you, we have one of these instances within our own industry. Greenhouse Software has co-founders, right? John Strauss, Daniel Chait, And I consider both of them friends. They both, I think John's more of the tech guy, Dan's more of the sales guy. Originally, when I first met them, I thought Dan was kind of the more outgoing, forward-facing person of the two. Now that I know John more, he's super comfortable and a great speaker as well. I just think, and they were college roommates, right? So they had this great relationship. They work well together. And I think it can be. Now, again, I think traditionally we see it as, succession, right? We see it like, it's part of a succession plan. And then one of those people knows that they're on their way out eventually. And the other one knows they're getting ready to take over. And so that dynamic works. I don't know if you had a co-CEOs and one was like 55 and one was like 38, I think the age difference might be a struggle because that 38 like kind of continuing to push up. Maybe the other person's like reached the pinnacle of their career and they know like, hey, I just need to hold on for X number of years. There's so many dynamics to it. Like, I don't know, but I agree with KD. I think part of this is with Reed is just, hey, we're on a rocket ship right now. Let's keep the founder around a little bit longer until we can make this transition where everyone's comfortable and the stock price doesn't take a hit.
But like if you were a shareholder of Netflix and you started looking at, or you're on a board of directors and you're starting to look at things like their compensation, like at a certain point, don't you feel like to have two CEOs being paid these monstrous packages and the amount of stock that each of them are probably getting? Like I did a quick search and I'm certain that Reed Hastings is paid more than the other, but just to like paint the picture, like Reed Hastings in 2019, like his total compensation package, $38 million. So like, is that not enough for one person? And like, you should be able to do the job as a sole CEO, right?
Well, especially when we take a look at like Fortune 500 executive comp, it's like 1,600 times the normal salary of one of their employees is what they're getting paid. And so you're going to double that up all of a sudden. Like that doesn't, again, I will agree with you. That doesn't make sense at all.
I don't know. Like Katie, here's the other thing. Like when we make the comparison to like co-parenting or a two-parent family, like I know for sure that there can only be one person in charge. And I know in my house who wears the pants. We might argue about who wears the pants in my house, but I know that really there's only one person in charge. And I just like that analogy of like,
I'd love to see Bobby like crawling in all of a sudden, like behind here, like, come on, wait a minute.
You know what? The internet's probably going to cut out right now and he's going to be like, enough, the show's over. But dude, like, I don't know that this two-parent thing is really like the best analogy either, because there's always one person who I think is doing more. But Katie, you might beg to disagree.
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast. From dorms to desks. A podcast by College Recruiter job search site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal, internship, or other entry-level job.
No, I mean, that's true. I mean, in my house, you go two parents and you go the traditional way with that. The mom in my house is always doing more. I do think one of the things that comes into play is if you have dual leaders, I think they can play different roles, right? So I think Hastings and the other guy have probably split up that role, and Hastings is on a retirement plan that's extended just to keep him around, to keep the stock juiced a little bit and not introduce that full succession yet. But, when you get into like parent households or even like different types of leadership where you have a couple people like running things in a department, even, or a functional area apart from a company, doesn't it generally, JLee, go good cop, bad cop?
Yeah.
Don't you usually, that can be effective because you usually have one who's the sane person. It's the life coach. It's the therapist. We're going to like work you through that. And then Tim, You've got the change maker, up yours, and let's get some change. Let's get some disruption. I'm going to mix things up, AKA bad cop.
I think the only way it works successfully is if both parties that are in that role, they have to have really great self-insight to where their weaknesses are, and they have to really value what the other person is bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about like that relationship or like the best relationships for parenting or home or whatever, to me, those are always the ones. When I see couples that I know, I'm like, holy crap, like I aspire to be like that couple. It seems like they both value each other and what in those strengths, right? So, you know, Katie and I are great examples of we made a conscious choice within our family that him and I were going to go work and our wives were going to stay home and raise our boys. And we're so thankful. And we've talked about this, that we were able to do that. But that only because our wives left really successful careers and they're probably smarter and better than we are. It only works if we value all the crap that they brought in and that they do, which I think a lot of people on the outside could look and say, well, that's not as hard, or as that's not as difficult, or as that's not as taxing as maybe, you know, what you guys do. But I don't feel that way at all. And I think that's where it works. That becomes really successful when you have co-CEOs, is they super good self-insight, value what the other person brings.
I love it. I feel like I'm getting some life advice right here around how I need to think about my household and my relationship with Mr. Bobby J. It's fascinating. I think we give it no more than 2 years that Netflix has this co-CEO arrangement. Katie,
I think the one place where, if you have like dual leaders, the one place where it can go haywire, actually two places, but first one first, is I think who's in charge related to strategy and who calls jump balls. So my guess is between Hastings and the other guy, nice to be the other guy, right? It's Hastings and the dude, like whoever that is.
The other guy.
Because Hastings is so well known. But I think who calls the jump balls where there's disagreement, I think you have to figure that out, because I think that can become a barrier. And then from like a coaching perspective, and this doesn't have to be like a co-CEOs, JLee, this can just be like, you know, multiple people, multiple hands in the mix. You know, the whininess in corporate America when people complain, I don't know who my boss is. You know, unless you're at a small to medium-sized business, join the club. There's a lot of like different like influencers like swimming around you. And for the people who say that, I'm just like, grow up. Like, it's never been that way. You could go back to the cavemen, and it's like big cave, moderate cave. And they're like, well, I'm working out of both caves. Honestly, the guy at the small cave's telling me that I shouldn't listen to the guy in the big cave. It's complicated.
Isn't the statement, I don't know who my boss is, like a precursor to go, that's one of your most disgruntled employees? Isn't that happen? Like how, because I've never said that.
Right.
Because if I had a question and I didn't know who my boss was, I would go clarify and take care of that.
By the way, players never ask that question.
No.
Like true players of the game never ask the question. So it's disgruntled. It's people who feel at risk, and it's probably people who are known not to be performing to their capabilities. And, you know, it's excuse making. But so I think like, you know, the dual boss thing, JLee, provides an avenue for some excuses. And that's an interesting thing to work through from an OD perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, you will probably hear and see, I think, out of like a company like Netflix and their senior executive team, you know, I think something along those lines around, you know, how do I ensure I'm accountable to the right person? How do I work through the details of the day to day? And I bet like if there's a case study like later on in HBR or elsewhere, some of this org design stuff is going to have some lessons for others to be able to grapple with. But I'm giving it 2 years max in terms of like how long this is going to last, because I also just think like the cash cow of Netflix, like they're smarter than this from a financial perspective to be able to have like two people at the helm. So let's see, the other, what's his name, CEO probably will, rise up, and we'll get to know his name a little bit more. Ted, we'll be referring to Ted a little bit more frequently when Reed moves on and, starts his venture capitalist fund doing something else with all that money that he's making.
Yep.
Next topic. Okay. So actually, admittedly, I saw this on Twitter that there was some noise and people talking about like, oh, here we go. HR is getting on its high horse right now in the virtual land where they are starting to talk about, and maybe they need to start giving advice on the topic of a dress code policy in the pandemic when people are working virtual. And I had to click through and I started seeing some of the noise on it because it was like, really? Are we talking about this? And sure enough, what came out was that people are trying to reconsider, what does it mean to have a dress code in a virtual environment? Is it necessary? And do you need to start putting some things in place as far as what is acceptable, what is not? And I have to tell you guys, like dress codes in general is something I have struggled with. Like people who work with me in the real world in an office know that I have been known to break the dress codes. We actually have a dress code policy around distressed jeans, and I've gotten in trouble because I do like a little ripped denim here and there, and it's very trendy, and I like to be on trend. But I'm curious, like, what do you guys think? Like, are we in a place right now where we need to and should be having dress code policies? And have you observed anything like in your own environment where you wonder, like, should that person be wearing it? Katie, I mean, you are interacting with candidates, with recruiters, with your own team, and like, what's happening? Is this a problem?
Well, I think from a candidate perspective, the bigger problem is probably, as it always was, it's probably candidates overdressing. Like, I popped into a Zoom interview, executive level call, and this is for.
Did you have your hoodie and hat on?
No. I had like normal dress shirt, no jacket, okay. And I hopped on, and my homeboy had like full suit on, which I'm happy that he did it, but of course I had to say, hey, when you get to the client, I don't know that I'm pretty sure they don't own a tie, and they may not own a jacket. So you got to go like open collar shirt, jacket. That's fine.
Maybe
be
sweater,
safe.
Quarter zip,
I think though, JLee, I wonder, like a lot of this comes down, there's two tiers here. The first tier is, do I go t-shirt and just general leisure wear that looks good? And is that okay? Or have I taken it to the next tier down? And then you put that on a matrix with how uptight I think the manager is. Right? But JLee, you're the fashion expert. What's the next stage down from leisure wear that I could wear? Like, I've got an athletic hoodie on now. That's maybe the next step. What's the next step down? Help me out.
It's literally called athleisure wear. I mean, that's exactly it. I think you're supporting athleisure wear. Yeah.
So it's business casual and then athleisure wear.
Oh, no. Business casual, then casual or leisure. You can call it either of the two.
Is that a t-shirt?
I think a t-shirt is leisure or casual. Yeah. And then
really?
Yeah. Wait, what else would it be? Like,
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. There's so many rules.
Have you tried to shop for like a t-shirt that you would wear with jeans lately, Katie? Or like a pair of khaki shorts or something? Like the cost of these freaking t-shirts now are insane. Like a Lululemon t-shirt for dudes is like $50. Like you're just like, what? Like if I can't wear that, like it should look good, right?
Well, so here's the thing. Like, can I go back to your candidate though, Chris? Like this gentleman put a suit on, right?
Right.
And he was interviewing from home, right? Like
he was, yeah.
So like the thing is, like, I'm glad you told him to not put that suit on for the next round, but like these poor people, like we know you're only putting the suit on for like this particular like meeting or call, like and just the whole dance and charade of like, I'm going to get dressed and put this like outfit on, knowing I'm sitting at home. I might be in my son's bedroom. I might be in the kitchen. I might be like in the utility closet. And I just like, are we fooling ourselves and feeling like people need to dress up? And so I don't know, I'm a little bit like saddened that we may be in a place that organizations are thinking about having to.
Well, Jay, I
virtual.
like when you talked about, say, hey, I wanted to talk about this. I sent you, I had just, I mean, literally within minutes, got an email from Nordstrom saying the perfect Zoom look for casual guys. You're just like, we're already being marketed to the fact that we know, like, hey, it's basically kind of mid chest up. You have to have a look, and afterwards it has to be nothing.
Hey,
I was on. Wait, one more time. I was on a big. I think another piece of this was, it's the whole background as well.
Yes.
And which I was on with like a Workday thing, and every single Workday person had an electronic digital background that was Workday enabled. Like it had a Workday logo and their blue. And across the board, every single one had the same one. So they've been told, if you're on a webcam, you're working at home, this is the background you have to have, which I think is important as well, because again, our hiring managers are going to judge candidates based on the background. And if we could send them a basic, whatever green screen background and show them how to use it, I think there's less judgment that will take place,
So here's the thing. I just we are living in a pandemic right now where life is hard enough as is, right? Like people are dealing with virtual schooling. It sounds like there are cats outside of my window, but it's just children yelling. Like I am looking over my shoulder to make sure no one's busting in. I'm trying to I get anxiety thinking about going to the grocery store now and having to put my mask on. So life is hard. And my problems are first world problems compared to other people, which is something that I recognize. And so to put so much focus and emphasis and also judgment on people for what's in their background or what's not, I feel like we're lacking this opportunity to show more empathy and grace towards each other when it's hard. So why are we going to judge people on their backgrounds or what they're wearing when we are living through a horrible time right now?
What, JLee? I want to ask you though, JLee. I'm not sure that I get the answer. I think you tried to answer it, but I'm not sure I get the answer that I could understand, because
she wants to wear her ripped jeans.
You know more about dress codes. You know more about style. You've forgotten more about style than I'll ever know. What would the powers that be think that dress that is inappropriate for work on Zoom is? I'm still trying to get there, because I tried to go to t-shirts and then Tim, hold on. And then Tim starts talking about, Lululemon t-shirts, Katie, if you can't do that, you're so I'm confused. What is it?
No. So I personally, for me, I think that t-shirts, totally fine. Athleisure wear, totally fine. I do have concern, if organizations or companies are saying, we have to have some standards in how people dress. It is hard enough as is. And even going the next step of saying, we want consistent types of backgrounds, or you need to apply a fake background so that we can't really see where you're working. I just feel it is hard enough as is just living life right now that to impose these things, we should just let people be. So I'd be okay with t-shirts.
Okay. Is there anything you wouldn't be okay with is my question.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
Let's say you hop on a Zoom, CEO of your company, you don't coach him at all. CEO of your company says, you know what, brand talent, let's mix this up. I need to get involved. So your team comes on, and let's keep it for the guys, because Tim and I are guys, and we pop on. What's something that you're damn it, Chris? What is it?
That's a good question. Well, so when you bring a CEO, we only have one. We don't have two. The CEO for a meeting. I would expect that we step it up a notch for someone like that, right? The very few times I've ever been in the boardroom, I stepped it up a notch. I actually wore a suit jacket when I had to go in for a meeting where the CEO was present. So even I would step it up, but I wouldn't expect that in a Zoom call. I would probably say, all right, gentlemen, you were just wearing I don't know, your Nike tank top, probably put on at least a polo shirt.
Gun show.
Yes. I know you want to show us that you're jacked, but at least put on a polo shirt if it were a meeting with a CEO. But if it were just a team meeting or something else, I'm okay with your t-shirt. That's okay. I don't want you to get dressed.
I'm not okay with graphic t-shirts or hoodies that have like the big Auburn logo or like
wow.
a football jersey or stuff like that. Like to me, I
Really?
think like, hey, wait a minute. Like there's a time and a place for that. It's not on a business call. But I've also gotten super comfortable with asking people. So like I had bankers, come in, to the office like last week, and I just told them like, hey, understand when you come here, I'm going to have jeans and a polo on. You wear whatever you want, but understand that's how I'm going to dress. Because like one guy goes, yeah, I had to actually put real pants on for the first time in 6 months. He's like, I was like thankful that I didn't have to do that coming to see you. And then I had to go and meet with a client, and same thing. I had just called them and asked like, hey, where are you guys at right now? Because I don't want to show up in a suit jacket and you're going to be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're so out of place. So I just think we have to ask and be comfortable with asking.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for the guys that a suit jacket could be too dressed up these days, either over a polo. Yeah, on a Zoom call, but even in person. I think both. Yeah, I think both. It could be too much because it's really disjointed. It's this whole concept of I got my jacket on and it's like July in Michigan and it's cold. So I have a jacket on and I'm walking in. There's that whole thing. I don't know. It's like,
hey, by the way, the meeting I came, they told me just like, oh, you just come like how you are. Like, we're totally fine. I show up for two ladies. They both have dresses on. I have jeans and like a button down. And I'm like, okay, I'm underdressed.
It's like I'm here for the landscaping contract.
Yeah. Can I paint the lines in the parking lot? Like,
Well, so part of what this goes back to for me is like, I know that there are times where HR has to play a role in setting policy, doing things that are, in the vein of, let's say, party planning and, that kind of stuff. And it does still ruffle me sometimes that HR has to be playing in those spaces. But I think like particularly right now when life is so hard, like let's not play here as HR people, like enforcing the dress code. But I don't know. I'm like the wrong generation of HR people, Chris.
I've got a great idea for you. What if, Jessica Lee, what if we had no dress codes? Like really we don't right now on Zoom, right? Mm-hmm. There are no standards. What if we have no dress codes and your judgment about how to influence people is just a part of evolution? It's just a part of this Darwinian society we live in. And you don't have to tell people what to do. It's like you figure it out. If the hoodie I have on now is disjointed for the call I'm on, the conventional wisdom clicks two things down. Click, click. That's really what we're talking about. There are no rules, and you just kind of have to figure it out. It's amazing.
Hey, shout out to our boy, William Tin Cup. We're all friends with William. He does the thing where he'll get on a call with him on Zoom and he'll go, hey, like my camera's not working. Sorry, dude. And I'm like, it is too. Turn your goddamn camera on. Because he's got like a t-shirt with some like AIDS from this morning stain on it. Like he just does it like, it doesn't work. You don't need to see me.
That's actually quite clever. I've never been smart enough to think of that one to say, oh, my camera's not working. Can't hop on, but
or because of the Wi-Fi, right? Like my Wi-Fi is not strong enough to run video. I'm just going to stay audio, Well,
actually, maybe I have done that trick when I'm trying to cook a meal and feed these children while also working at the same time. But friends, HR professionals who are out there listening, I just think this is an opportunity. Let's extend people some grace. And when we're back in an office, that might be the time where things are more appropriate as far as trying to reinstitute dress codes and all of that. And there might be, certain industries where this is needed. But I'm telling you, when we're in this virtual environment, I just don't know about it. But HBR is saying dress for the remote job you want. It was interesting. They also have kind of had some coverage on this topic and, are advocating for, us to still make sure that we are putting our best foot forward, including through dress. But I don't know. I beg to differ. Guys, it's been real. It's actually, I have to tell you, like, it's really warm over here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I don't know. It's like seasonably, it's weird. I'm confused. But I'm going to go outside and enjoy some of this lovely weather and make sure no kids have injured themselves because I heard some screaming and we've had some accidents in the neighborhood recently. But It's been nice seeing you. And for all of our friends out in the podcast listening land, we appreciate you joining us. And we are going to be back next week with something else good. So we'll talk to you then. I'm Jessica Lee. He's Chris Dunn and he's Tim Sackett. And we are out.